Oh boy. Okay. It is Friday. And when it is Friday, you know who I bring in. Litigator Richard Schoenstein is with us. And also we are joined by psychologist Dr. John Delatorre. It's great to have you both here. Rich, I'm going to start with you. Do you think that this evidence should come in? Because the question, of course, is, does the probative value outweigh the prejudicial value? Is it important? Is it necessary for the prosecution?
I believe it should come in, and here is why. This evidence is not some remote financial crime that was committed by Alec Murdaugh that they're putting in just to show he's a bad guy. That wouldn't be allowed. You wouldn't put some off-topic bad acts that the defendant did. All of this appears to have been imploding on him on the day of the murders. He is getting caught by his law firm. He is being found out. He is being kicked out of the law firm. All of that is happening and helps explain his state of mind on the day of the murders. And people struggle with it. I've heard commentators who say, well, I don't understand why that would motivate him to kill his wife and son. I don't understand that either. But here's the thing about motive, Jesse. Motive doesn't have to be rational, especially when you're dealing with an irrational person under distress and desperation and drugs. You can find motive if you connect all of that, and I believe it's relevant to showing the whole picture of what was going on with this person.
Okay, so Rich, I'm going to go back to you on this. This is something I mentioned before, right? If all of this comes in, not only can we talk about how it might have an effect and be beneficial for the prosecution, this is more of a reason why, if this comes in, I don't think the defendant should take the stand. I was asked that question. Should the defendant take the stand? You think he's going to take the stand? The jury hears this level of alleged deception, able to fool people that he worked with and that was close with. If he takes the stand, why should the jury believe anything he has to say?
So here's the question about Alec Murdaugh taking the stand. And you and I have talked about this with other defendants. Yep. So for me, the first question is, how would he do on the stand? And I'm sure they're having practice runs to figure that out, because that's the most important question. But this guy has some splaining to do, as we say, right? He's got these financial crimes, but more importantly, they have audio of him being on the scene when he said he wasn't there. And how is he not going to explain why that's the case? That, to me, is a big question. And the other thing is, if we buy sort of the underlying theory that this is kind of a narcissistic guy, I mean, thank goodness he's not representing himself in this trial. But is he really going to let it go to verdict without taking an opportunity to speak to the jury? I don't know.
I'm getting a little bit lost in the weeds with it. I think it's important. I'm not sure the jury needs to hear all of it. So I'm going to ask you two things. How much do you think should be let in? And two, what are some of the red flags you're seeing here? I mean, as a lawyer working at a firm, what are you making of it?
I'm going to start with the second question first. Okay. There are red flags all over, and the fundamental question is, does the prosecution have clear and convincing evidence of these other crimes? And it certainly does. He's diverting funds, client funds, out of the firm into his personal account. That is such a huge no-no for lawyers. I cannot tell you. That's the quickest way to get disbarred. That's terrible. These bank loans we're hearing about, the documents are backdated, the reasons for the loans are vague, they're under-collateralized, meaning the bank doesn't have protection for the loans, so they're clearly fishy. And there's a lot of evidence for that stuff. So your first question was, how much do you let in? I think, to me, the fact that he was in financial distress, the fact that he was being found out in the days that the murder was committed, that is relevant. But I also think nobody wants a 20-week trial about bank fraud. That's not what this trial is. They don't want to put on 17 witnesses about what he did to this client and his law firm and this bank and this transfer and this loan. It's too much. The judge is going to have to figure out a way to let the prosecution put this theory into the case without overtaking the trial with financial stuff that would go on for weeks and weeks and weeks.
I'm of the perspective, I get it. I get where the prosecution's going, right? There's a lot of problems in Alec Murdaugh's life. We've seen people under pressure commit terrible crimes, kill loved ones. I get it. The thing that I'm struggling with is the Snapchat video from an hour before the shootings where he's seemingly happy with his son Paul, the weekend before celebrating his birthday. happy, smiling with his family. No one has come forward and said that there were problems with his family, that he was fighting with his wife, that he had problems with his son. Nothing. It comes out of nowhere. That's where I think the defense needs to hone in on. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a problem for the prosecution here, and that is part of why they need to put in this evidence of these financial crimes. They don't have any other explanation. And listen, we're never going to get a satisfying answer to why would he shoot his wife and his son in the head and kill them. There is no satisfying answer. There is no explanation that is ever going to make sense or justify that. But the prosecution has to build a case of what would lead a man to do something like that. And their theory seems to be that his tangled financial web of misdeeds was unraveling around him, and he was desperate and in despair and on drugs, and all of that contributed to make him do this thing. I don't think they have to show that he was doing it to find a financial out, that there was some financial advantage. I don't think they need to show that. I just think they need to show that his life was such that you could understand, not really, but understand why he would do it.
The kennel video, right? Not a Snapchat video, it's a kennel video. It's the video for Paul that allegedly places Alec Murdaugh at the crime scene minutes before when prosecutors say the killings happened. Strongest piece of evidence? I mean, where do you think that, how does the defense battle against that?
That was the moment this trial turned. I was critical of the prosecution in this trial. I thought they were very slow out of the gate. They had trouble even showing the investigation. That video where his voice is clearly in a place at a time he says he wasn't there, that started the shift dramatically in the prosecution's favor, I think.
And it's not even whether you hear it or I hear it. Two close friends of the family, Will Loving, Rogan Gibson, people that know Alec Murdaugh, they know the family, definitively said that is Alec Murdaugh's voice. That's something that I don't know what the defense is going to do. And I'll throw this to you, Rich, real quick. Could be, with 30 seconds, bad in police work. That's something the defense has hit on.
Well, I think they put this witness on to say no fingerprints, no DNA, no problem. It's not surprising that we didn't find anybody, any. And importantly, we didn't find anyone else's.
Ah, okay, that's interesting too. All right, so still early with this witness coming on the stand. Tracy, I appreciate it. Rich, appreciate it so much. Thank you both so much.